Hello and welcome. I'm not doing that. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode of The Little Pod of Horrors, the best idea since premarital sex on Halloween.
Great tagline.
It is, isn't it? I'm so proud I thought of that. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, Gordon's on a bit of a hiatus, so he's left me to man the good ship pod. And I have been working hard behind the scenes. I know it's been a while since we put anything out, but I have been lining up guests. Now, the first choice was obvious to me. This person had to be my first guest, seeing as he and I surfed the waves of podcasting for so many years together, and it's the most natural thing in the world to welcome one Mr. Casey Marsh to the Little Pod of Horrors.
Hello, and we're internet married. Don't forget.
Yes, we are internet life
partners.
partners.
You're actually legally bound by internet law to bring your brother wife onto the show.
Brother wife, I like that. Well, you had to be my first. Anyway, before we creep out all of our listeners who don't know about our previous relationship.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. So what we're going to do, we've got a couple of films that we have both watched, which we're going to discuss. We have a Beers for Boz.
Yep.
And like a main film. It's not a pod of classics or anything like that. It's just a film we're going to discuss. Mm-hmm. I will prattle a little bit about things I've seen and done, simply because if I don't, then next time I record, I'll have forgotten, because I have a fish memory.
You actually forgot the word memory then?
I didn't I? Oh, God, I'm so out of practice. It seems like forever. Honestly. Now, actually, I should start business by saying it isn't forever since I podcasted at all, but it's a long time since I sort of hosted one as such. I actually got quite used to Gordon taking the reins and doing the intros and all that kind of thing and just being the other guy. And that's kind of weird to go back the other way. But this week I had the very great pleasure to be a guest on one of my favourite podcasts, which is the Black Dog Podcast. For those of you who don't know, it's a Geek Planet Online podcast, and they talk about films each week. A different film each week, which falls into three categories. It's either a rose-tinted specs, which is a film you remember fondly from your past, or a shit-covered goggles, which is a film you remember as being very crap, or they do what's called a Thunderdome, where they can't decide between them which of the other two it should be. So they ask their listeners to send in feedback, and then they tot up the likes and dislikes, and depending on the count at the end, it's either a rose-tinted specs or it's a shit-covered goggles. A film was mentioned in passing on the show, and I sort of put on the Facebook group, I love that film, and just got slammed for liking this film, and I thought everybody loved this film. So I offered to go on and defend it myself, and it's over 2 hours of giggling and trying to wind up Lee Metcalf as much as possible, and it kind of worked. In retaliation, however, they have issued a challenge to us at the Little Pod of Horrors to watch a film of their choosing, which is supposed to be as equally terrible. Now, the original idea that was going to be the next thing we release would be that film, but unfortunately circumstances have not allowed for that. So the next show after this one, I promise, it's going to be a special, just a one-off special about that film, and we shall dissect it and talk about our experiences and whether it was as traumatic as we're led to believe, basically.
Indeed.
So the film in question, if you haven't listened to that podcast, is Snoop Dogg's Hood of Horrors, which is kind of cool because it's similar to the podcast name. So let's see what they did there.
I think it's probably where the cool ends, from what I've heard.
So yeah, we will do it. I am not one to shy away from a challenge.
Just before we get any further into the show as well, I'm going to go full disclosure and apologise to everybody in advance. I have a cold. I'm trying to keep the coughing and spluttering to a minimum. Boz is a master editor, but, if I'm coughing all over him all the time, then there's not a lot I can do about it. So I'm doing my best, but I apologise for the...
One of the challenges of our previous podcast was either the minute Casey's body found out he had to record, it would instantly disable his voice in some way, or we would just break the internet or one or both computers. And as such, on the Black Dog, I managed to break their setup just by merely being on the other end of Skype. So,
it was a very, very, very paranormal activity, actually. There was something conspiring against us.
Yeah. Well, then we called it the Curse of Here Goes Nothing, and they have the Curse of the Black Dog. And you'll hear if you go to their last episode and listen to it. I talk about the Curse of the Black Dog. I went, no, it's not that bad because it hasn't happened to me yet. They're like, no. It starts from the week you're on the show onwards. Like that day is the start of that week. So Tuesday onwards, then there's the Curse of the Black Dog. everything went wrong after I'd been on that show last week. So, yeah, the Black Dog curse is real, as is the Here Goes Nothing curse.
Yeah.
And what's more horror than a curse?
You'd think crossing the streams would cancel out, exorcise the demon.
Well, yeah. Oh,
But no, I'm ill.
Clearly not. So, touch wood, this is working. So, we shall see.
So far, so good.
Now, you're an incredibly busy chap, I know. Have you sort of imbibed any horror goodness over the last 2 or 3 years?
What have I seen? I mean, nothing that particularly springs out. I'm not. I like horror. I like the genre, but I'm not kind of a rabid fan. So I haven't really been, obviously, searching it out. Especially with having a scaredy cat wife and kids around most of the time, the chances for horror are few and far between. If you don't count, the only one I can think of recently was the Hound of the Baskervilles episode of Sherlock. That's not really very strong on the horror thing. There would be nothing really I could recommend that you guys probably hadn't already covered.
Well, we had a great experience when I came to yours, and I sort of forced you to watch Martyrs. And
we're going that far back. Of course we are.
Well, I was quite pleased that you were on board with that, because it is extreme and it's not everybody's cup of tea.
Oh, so, believe me, it was a difficult journey, but very, very enjoyable in the sense of great cinema is enjoyable. It was an amazingly accomplished film. I think I really, really enjoyed it. It's probably the wrong choice of words, but
yeah, we were sort of going in circles talking about films like that.
It's a film that still stays with me, and the message and everything, and the kind of thought provoking way that they build the drama, without the usual kind of there's the usual thing with horror films is that payoff. I'm sure you guys have discussed this many times, of the wonderful build up followed by the we've got to get out of here now. It's a bit.
It really is.
It's the curse of the horror film. It's why short stories in horror work much better than long form ones. Is because you have to get out of them somehow, and everything has to either return to normal, or you've got to be very, very creative with your ending. And that one really, the quality kept up all the way through, and that's why the best ones I think kind of stay with you. Things like The Mist, and stuff like that. If they nail the ending, that is a real. The Blair Witch Project, they really do cement themselves in your mind. Whereas there is a huge list of films where it's like, oh, is that it really?
we do go on about the shit ending.
I'm looking at you, Last Exorcism.
Oh, but that wasn't as bad as I was led to believe in the end. It was a bit, what? But I thought it would be a lot worse than that. Funny you talk about The Last Exorcism. I watched something very similar. Just yesterday, in fact. Oh, yeah. A good friend of ours I've known quite a few years through the internet and stuff like that, Matt, he actually came up to visit us and meet us to watch this film yesterday at our local cinema. And we went to see the new Hammer offering, the people who did The Woman in Black recently.
Oh, yes.
They have a new film out called The Quiet Ones.
What is the supernatural? Anyone? Ghosts? No one here believes in ghosts. What if you could prove that the supernatural was merely a manifestation of what already exists in the mind?
Welcome to the experiment.
Are you a believer?
2, 3.
Did we get it on film?
Something's wrong.
You're not alone. There's something there with you, isn't there? What is it?
She's here.
Oh, I'm guessing there's TV trailers or something. That's definitely rings a bell.
It's been sponsoring films on the Horror Channel.
Yeah.
They've had like a little sting before each thing, either side of each ad break. Without, it's where you want to talk about it, but you don't want to spoiler. It's made pretty well. You can sort of tell it was the same people who did Woman in Black. It's got a lot of the same feel to it, really, and it's another sort of based on true events, and, set in Oxford. So Oxford University was an experiment that was going on there, and it's sort of a suspected possession kind of a story, and it does pretty well at not. What I liked is it wasn't completely obvious. Oh, they're doing that.
Yeah,
It sort of, you didn't quite know where it was going to go. You didn't know what the end was going to be, but and the performances are pretty good as well. But the the main scare is in the trailer, which I hate.
Oh, why must they
Don't put
do
them-
that?
Yeah, I mean, the most dramatic bit, I suppose, is in the trailer, and it's like, seen that? And then there is a massive jump the shark moment, and I just went, oh, for fuck's sake, I'm out. It was unnecessary. In fact, completely unnecessary. They could have done it many different ways without using computer graphics. And yeah, it just, why did you do that? It could have been a good movie. And then towards the end, they do it again. And it's like, you didn't need to do that either.
I must confess, I haven't seen the previous offering, The Woman in Black, but I did. I actually listened to the audiobook a while back before I realised that it was this kind of legendary story and a great stage play and all these things that go along with it. And sorry, and I really did find it probably the most terrifying thing I'd ever heard. It's rare that a story like a spoken word story can really get you, but I found the sense of creeping dread and the whole way that it built. It was masterful. So when they were doing the movie, I was thinking, oh, of course, yeah, that's going to work really well. And I think that's the point I'm trying to make is that is so much more powerful than as you say, resorting to the computer graphics, the bang pow, playing your card, throwing in your hand essentially.
Yeah, it really was.
And cashing in all of that tension for the sake of like a trailer moment. It spoils so many horror movies.
They come so close to being great horror movies and classics, and then they do something like that, which is just no. I'm actually at the point now where if I never saw another CG effect in a horror film, I'd be quite happy.
Yeah.
Take me back to the old school days of prosthetics, and even if it's a bit hokey, even I don't care. Actually.
Occasionally, though, shonky practical effects can be more horrifying. If something looks a bit weird, the idea of the uncanny valley, where something gets so close to reality, but it's not quite there that it's actually creepy. Well, some kind of prosthetic makeup effect that isn't quite human, but it looks humanoid, but isn't, can be spooky just because it was badly made. I'm not explaining it very well, but when something like when Schwarzenegger pops his eye out in the, does his little bit of eye surgery in the Terminator, because it's the waxy kind of, it's the Stan Winston head that he's doing it on. It looks a bit scary because it looks a bit weird, and that kind of thing. Practical effects are, plus they're just always better because you're not pulled out of the movie.
One of the worst examples was Wrong Turn, the original one, and there's an axe decapitation in a tree.
Yes, there is.
And the body falls away, and the blood is all CG, and it's just like they've got these wonderful sort of dissected on a table practical effects, and then you go to that, and it's like if something looks like it's overlaid, it's not horrific.
No.
You can throw as much fake blood around as you like. It will never put me on edge.
Yeah, because
as long as I can see it.
You're reminded again and again, no, this is an entertainment,
Yes,
18 put this together rather than you being taken along with the narrative and allowing yourself the escapism that movies, the entire reason we watch movies, is to get lost in the story and forget where you are and what you're doing.
Now, something else we literally just come back from. So I'm a little bit out of sorts because I've just been in the cinema for over 2 hours, and this was my birthday treat, basically. Unfortunately, we were trying to get to go and see it with Shane. I don't think he listens to this show, but he's from the Greatest Events in Sporting History podcast. If anybody listens to that,
and he's a lovely chap.
He's a very nice chap, and we were trying to make it work to go and see it together, but we couldn't, so we had to go and catch an earlier showing. He said, quickly justifying the fact that he's seen the film. And basically, we went to see The Raid 2, directed, produced, edited,
by Boss's
choreographed
close personal friend.
Your close personal friend of the show, one Mr. Gareth Evans.
My name's Gareth Evans. You're listening to The Little Pot of Horrors.
Cuma beberapa bulan. Kamu nggak boleh tahu aku ada di mana. Dan aku nggak boleh dekat kamu.
Nah, kalau kita mau membersihkan kota ini dengan bersih, kita harus tangkap mereka. Nama-nama yang penting.
Oh my word. Talk about, like, me and Lavinia had the discussion coming out. She's like, why is this not a horror film? I said, because it's an action movie. Well, it's an action martial arts movie, but it should be a horror film. Well, no. She said at the front, it said it was a horror movie. It said no, it said it contained strong, bloody violence and gore. That does not make it a horror film. But just to give you an idea of the level of violence in this movie, that's the discussion we had coming out.
Oh, wow.
It's way longer. It's a little bit drawn out in places, but they're actually, the criticisms of the first one is it's thin on plot, big on action, and it was a small budget and all these kind of things. And this time they've thrown the kitchen sink at it. And it is more engaging. They try and get you more into the characters and everything else. But the visual style is just something else. It gets to the point where it's really, some of the combat stuff, the camera's really close to the action, and I start, a bit borny, and I start to get annoyed then, like, pull back.
Yeah.
I want to see what's happening, because that really pisses me off. In fact, Captain America really annoyed me for that. You've got this beautiful choreography, and then the camera is just stuck in everybody's face while they're fighting. And it's like, pull out. I want to see who threw that punch, how they threw that punch, This whole shaky close-up thing gets really annoying. And what they've done with the Raid 2 is just at the point where I'm like, would you just pull the cat? Oh, thank you. And you get a slightly wider shot of this really cool move. And Gareth Evans, is in this one, I need to go back and watch the original Raid now and see if and how many times he does this in that one. But it's noticeable, it is a repeating thing in this movie, is the slam head into something, camera follow angle of person's head. So if cameras like face onto somebody, and then his head gets slammed into the floor,
you get
or
the
into a
added
wall.
momentum of the camera.
Yes. So his head basically stays central in frame.
Yep.
And you just go with him until the point of impact. And he must do it 50 times in this movie. But it pulls you in and makes you go, ouch.
I really enjoyed the Raid. I watched it a couple of times actually. It's such a great ride. It's kind of it's kind of like it's like somebody got Double Dragon the movie completely right,
Yeah.
in terms of a sort of scrolling, scrolling beat 'em up essentially, but done by somebody with such visual flair and such an eye for keeping that fun and not monotonous. And like you say, it's bucket loads of violence, but you accept it going in. It's a fantastic movie.
Obviously, we got the treat of seeing at Fright Fest, because he did VHS 2, and we got to see that little teaser for the Raid 2.
Yes.
Which are basically called, Hammer Girl. I won't say anything more about that. But to see that in the movie, it's actually intercut with some other scenes. And actually, the fact that I saw it continuously rolling as one long fight scene, I consider to be a massive privilege, because
it's cut up in the film, yeah.
It is, yeah, and it's probably cut up in the film because it is unrelenting as a single sequence.
Hence why they chose it for Fright Fest, I guess.
Yes, yeah. I think he'd literally just finished editing that. I was like, right, package this up, take it to Fright Fest. But you could tell he's been working on some horror movies and stuff. He's just it's darker with the the blood and the violence, and it is gory, and there are just so many moments of just like, oh fucking hell. there was some people behind us, and it was like, I think 2 blokes gone, oh, it's an action movie, come on, and like the wives had gone reluctantly with them, and just listening to the one, and she was just like, oh God, she was just disapproving all the way through. While she's doing that, someone's getting their face slammed into concrete. Lavinia's just going, yes.
Right, this is, come on, darling, this is how we spend a sunny Sunday afternoon.
She came out pumped. She goes, oh, it's brilliant. It's got a wicked car chase sequence as well. It's like, I loved it, yeah. It could have been trimmed down, is on the lengthy side, but if you like The Raid, I think you'll like this. And
I definitely need to get and see that.
Yeah. Stabby, cutty, slashy, smashy, hitty. Yeah, just everything.
In fact, I probably would have made more of an effort. I literally, you mentioning you were going to go and see it was the first time I thought, oh, there's a Raid 2 coming out.
Okay.
So now I know.
Yeah, definitely worth a look. Definitely worth a look. Yeah, so that was my sort of out and about viewings. Just think what else I watched. Oh, as part of sort of homework for this episode that we're about to do, I was using YouTube and something came up on the sidebar on YouTube, like it does.
I know what you're going to say.
I had to when Gordon restarted with me as co-host, we sort of did a reintroduction of ourselves for new listeners, and we talked about our introduction to horror, and I sort of quoted it as being the horrific experience of listening to American Werewolf in London while my dad watched it, and it was very loud, and I got all upset. But I realised actually there was something before that which had just filed away in my memory, and then I saw it on this sidebar. I was like, oh yes. I think it's from about 1984. This thing, it's called Spookies, and we'd obviously, when we were younger, we were renting a lot of VHSs and, like, kids movies, actually, like Flight of the Navigator and films like that. And for some reason, we'd obviously rented something closer to a 15, like a heavy PG or something like that. And there was a Spookies trailer on this, and we went, "Oh, Mum, yeah, we want to see that. We want to see that." Now, I don't know if something went wrong with the ratings, but I don't make my parents sound criminal, but they did rent this movie for us. The first thing I noticed clicking YouTube is I get a BBFC card, 18 rated. It's like, okay. Now, the reason I remember this day is I was ill from school. I must have been, 12 or something like that, 11, maybe younger. And I really wasn't very well. And my mum had bought me a Transformer, which, like, never happened if it wasn't my birthday or Christmas. It was just so out there. And it was Metroplex. And
yeah, not just a Transformer.
That's not just he's a whole city.
Yeah.
And I just remember this film was on, the family were watching it, I was feeling a bit bad, but obviously my meds were working, and I was sitting playing with this Transformer, and it obviously just sealed everything into my memory. And I'm watching it again, it's terrible. It's so bad. Pretty much as I remember, but there's just this really horrific scene at the beginning, just this sort of half werewolf creature thing just buries a small child alive in the first 10 minutes. You're like, no, okay, fair enough. So I haven't actually finished watching this yet. So I say to people, if you want to look it up, it's on YouTube. It's called Spookies, 1984. I'd be really interested if people could watch it and give us some feedback about what they think about this movie, just coming to it cold. And if anybody saw it when they were younger and it's they're revisiting it, because it's an interesting one. It really is. So that's. Go back into
I was actually thinking about mentioning that nostalgia is often best left unrevisited, But given what we're about to unleash on the listeners, I'd better shut up because we need a bit of goodwill left on our side.
Yeah. Now, my thoughts on the 2 movies we have lined up for today. Mm-hmm. I'm actually thinking that we do the beers for Pos last. What
think
say
so
you,
too.
sir? I think we may have more to say about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, as is tradition, we will start with a trailer.
Sì. È qui.
It's beautiful, and the big collaboration begins.
I didn't quite know I'd be working on this sort of film. What's your problem?
Don't do this. Stuff. After all, you're here to do a job.
This is not a horror film. This is a Santini film.
What I admired about you was that you were an artist. That you were doing this with a love.
Sounds a little watery. Is there any fresh marrow?
Francesco tells me you are trying to escape. There's no reason to escape.
Who's there?
Gilderoy, this is going to be a fantastic film.
This game's up, old boy. No more jumping through hooks.
Don't be afraid. A new world of sound awaits you. A new world that requires all your magic powers.
Yeah, for once you might find the trailer actually works on a podcast because obviously trailers are very visual by nature and we play them for context, but often all you hear in the horror genre is
Yes, lots of screaming and lots of gushy noises.
Yes.
Which is perfectly pitched for this film.
It is, yeah. The film we're talking about is Berberian Sound Studio, which I heard about, I think, probably the Kermode sort of Mayo route, because I do listen to that.
It did the festival circuit a lot, didn't it? It's got a lot of laurel wreaths on its trailer and things like that.
Yeah, and to be honest, I actually thought I'm probably not going to watch this because it seems like a hype thing, and I'm probably not going to like it because I've heard too much hype now.
Well, I'm of the opposite. We can have two viewpoints here because I was pleasantly, completely unaware of this movie.
Ah, okay.
I didn't know if it was a new movie. I didn't know if you were referencing something I'd never heard of before. I thought it might have been a typo of barbarian, and I thought it was going to be some kind of hokey barbarian-based thing. So, like, it was a real thrill that it was. Well, I won't go into what I thought of the film, but it was really cool that I went into it completely cold.
Ah, interesting.
Absolutely no idea at all what I was watching. So,
now this came out in 2012. It had various, like you say, festival nominations. Hard to read. Fantastic Fest, Toronto International Film Festival.
I think it did Tribeca, didn't it? New York, that kind of thing.
Yes. Well, New York Film Festival.
Yeah.
Yeah. It made official selection anyway. And it's a really interesting little concept. It's set in the 70s, and it's about a talented UK film sound engineer who gets asked to go and work on basically a scrungy Italian horror flick in Italy. And he flies out there and
well, it's called the Equestrian Vortex, and I think he doesn't realise it's a horror film.
Yes.
Yeah, he thinks it's going to be about horses.
Horses, yeah. Because he's never done any horror film work before. He's a completely straight-laced sort of. In fact, he's been working on a documentary about Box Hill, which is just down the road from here. It's a very nice area in Surrey. There's like a random clip of it in the middle, which that jarred me a little bit. So we can get to that. Yeah, so he gets there, and basically, I think the problem for him, bless him, is he's got to make all these sounds, and the tracks for this movie, and obviously he's seeing the visuals of the movie, and I think to start with, it's really hard for him, isn't it? Because it's just, what the hell am I looking at?
Yeah, he's very mild-mannered, very kind of homebody. Literally, he's a mummy's boy, this guy.
Yes.
But very meek and very sort of out of his depth, and almost like the sort of new kid at school kind of thing. Of I'm not supposed to be here. I don't feel like I fit in here. And of course, is presented with what appears to be, just non-stop torture of women in general. And these sort of gushy giallo. Obviously, it's a love letter to the giallo movies of the 70s, like Argento and that kind of thing, to a certain extent. But it's more, Sorry, carry on with the plot anyway, because I'm going to talk on the top of it.
Well, I mean, that's it, really. It's just sort of how he then has to cope with that situation. Obviously, he's got the language barrier. He's there. He hasn't met the boss. He's trying to get his plane ticket refunded.
Yeah.
The weird thing about this film is actually, normally we go, well, are we spoiling? Aren't we spoiling? There's no spoilers.
No.
I don't really see how you can spoil this film, because actually, as a film, it's what surprised me, and it actually took me a couple of days to decide, did I like it or not? It wasn't an instant love thing with me, because although it's about a genre of movie that I'm very familiar with and like, and obviously those kind of soundtracks as well, I think that's where I probably like it more than most people would.
Yeah.
It's got 6.3 on IMDb, which is pretty low for a official selection sort of film, and that is because I'm sure it's very divisive.
Yeah, I mean, for my own, off the bat, I'm going to say that I absolutely loved it. From the first time I saw it, I actually watched it twice. It's weird. It's seriously odd. It's a weird film. But I love, David Lynch. I love Cronenberg. Those kind of things. I wouldn't even classify it as a horror movie. I would see it more as a kind of psychological thriller or a psychological study, really. Without getting too arty and too technical. But the beautiful thing I thought was it broke with a lot of conventions, and the thing we should point out is you never see the movie in question that he's working on. It's wonderfully done. The other thing I love as well is I love more. I mean, we all know as people that listen to here, there's nothing we know. Boz and I are metalheads, but I also love kind of different extreme ends of all sorts of different types of music. And one of the artists I really love is a guy called Richard James, who's better known as Aphex Twin.
Yep.
With this kind of boundary-pushing electronica and weird voice manipulation and crazy sort of sounding stuff. And that reminded me when I first watched Barbarian and the sound and the cutting and it's really masterful sound work in this film.
It's.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It also looks beautiful. It's a real. I think the reason I loved it so much is it's such a well-made film. Gorgeous scene imagery. A lot of framing that could be, the stills. All the stills in this film would look beautiful. With the mixture of analog and old style, because obviously they're in the 70s and they're working within the giallo genre. Along with cutting-edge kind of techniques and modern skittering ways of editing, all that stuff sort of mashed together with this storyline where you don't really know. It's almost dreamlike, are some of these things happening within the guy's head, because people's personalities change, which is very Lynchian in how one minute people are talking kindly to him, then next minute they're all sort of biting at each other or him, and again without trying to spoil too much. It's a real head fuck of a film. It is. And it reminds me of the kind of the same feeling I got, the uneasy feeling that I got from listening to Aphex Twin. And I'm pretty sure the warp that's mentioned in the production company of this film is the same warp that is Warp Records that produces, hey presto, Aphex Twin. So I'm pretty sure there's some kind of link. But I really, really loved this film. Really loved it.
Okay.
As an audio thing, as a different approach to making you feel unsettled. Where there weren't any great scares other than the feeling that you just never quite knew what was going on, and it was very uneasy.
Yeah, it's one of those where it makes you think something horrific is coming,
exactly.
Because they're dealing with the horrific every day. You expect you're going to see something at some point, and you don't.
No, they take one of your senses and overload it with things that suggest to you that dreadful things are happening, and they never give you the visual punchline to it, and that makes for a really effective film. And I think that's why it holds your attention, and why I enjoyed it so much, was that you were thinking, this is genuinely a great little idea. It's a wonderful idea. It's not a groundbreaking film, but it's one of the most original films I've seen in a very long time.
Yeah, I'd heard about it. I'd heard sort of people synopsisize it and talk about that. I love that word. So I knew it was going to be something unusual, and sort of, I don't know, 10 minutes in, I was like, okay, right, the style's interesting. But then I just got to a point I realised, I should have known from what I'd heard previously, but I was watching it just through my TV speakers. I stopped doing that and I turned on my surround system because I'm like, this film is all about what you're hearing.
It is.
And then, supporting it with the visuals as a secondary thing almost.
And there are some moments that are great. The kinetic, kind of semi-animated title sequence, and cutting into that, which is almost a kind of trek into animation. That looks amazing, and again, a lot of it is lifted straight from the style of Mario Bava and Dario Argento, that kind of thing. But so well done and so effective, because you never quite know where. Like I said, it's so disorientating and unsettling straight away.
Yeah.
Because this is a modern film, but yet certain bits of it could you literally think you might be watching a 70s movie, and then it cuts to something that is modern day, and that's what I like about it. It's you're never on a sure footing with it. But
it is one of those. It's like, well, can you really call it a horror film? Because it's more that it's about horror films. But the reason it is because at no point do you feel comfortable enough that there isn't going to be a slit throat at some point, or something like that is going to happen, whether it does or doesn't. It is that unease that it generates, and it's listed as drama, horror, thriller in that order.
Yeah.
And that's probably pretty close.
It's the same level of horror that you would call something like Blue Velvet, a David Lynch movie. It's something like that, I would say, where there is this sense of dread, almost, where sometimes it was funny, sometimes it was kind of, you thought it was just a straightforward drama, a period piece. And there were other times where you're thinking, okay, here we go, this is the bad. And then it's kind of, because it's such a surreal experience, you just cannot predict what's going to happen. So that idea of the kind of tension that comes along with horror is kept going. So it's a very, very original kind of horror movie. It's a tough one, but it's going into it blissfully unaware of all of the hype. I can honestly, hand on heart, I can say that I feel it was justified. I didn't realise there was such a buzz around it. I thoroughly enjoyed it and thought it was a real breath of fresh air. So I don't feel that had I known about the hype, it might not have been so affecting, which is really cool, because these days it's almost impossible to miss stuff. It's only because I've been so busy that I didn't keep up to date with these things. But I'm really
I've
glad.
misjudged it, actually. Sorry, it says 13 nominations, 13 awards.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, so British Independent Film Award, Best British Independent Film, Best Achievement in Production.
I mean, if it was made, I'm not suggesting that it possibly was, but if it was made for a small budget, then, standing ovation for these guys, because it looks, pardon the pun, $1 million. It really does look fantastic, and sound, of course, sound is the centre point for it.
And I think especially if it's going in at film festivals, and you've got a lot of horror buffs there.
Yeah.
Obviously, because that period in Italian horror is so pivotal. There's so many people with a history and a love for the genre that this is sort of it's a creepy love letter, isn't it?
That's it. And I'm sure there are hundreds of very clever little references and moments, and
oh yeah, I probably didn't get 20% of what was in there.
The true aficionados, of which, of course, I'm nowhere near, would completely lap up. But I just enjoyed it for what it was, for this wonderfully crafted piece of work from start to finish. But it is a kind of, I know I've mentioned his name 3 times or 4 times now, but it is a very David Lynch kind of experience, where you just have to kind of surrender and go, okay, I don't quite know whether this is a piece of drama or it's some kind of art house project. But it doesn't spoil the ride at all. It's as you can tell, I really dug it. I was really glad. I'm grateful to you for suggesting it, because I wouldn't have known about this film.
Oh, good. I got something right.
Yeah, you did. You got it spot on.
Well, the thing is, I think the IMDb rating is probably symptomatic of how well it did, the awards it won, because then a lot of people who wouldn't normally watch that kind of film then watched it, and that's driven the score, because they're like, well, where's the horror? Where's the payoff? Where's the, and I kind of, like I did at the end of it, I was sitting there going, oh, right, it ends there. Yeah. I wasn't expecting that. And then I had to sit, and it was like, I don't know. And the job was really weird. The next day, I had a call from a colleague at work, and he mentioned something, and it made me think of this film, and I just started talking about this film and the fact that I'd been watching it, and I sort of started explaining what was good about it. And so it was kind of like, before I decided in my own mind whether I liked it or not, I was recommending it to someone and saying what was good about it. I'm thinking, well, I clearly like this movie then. Do you know what I mean? It was interesting like that. There's actually, talking about the horror aspect of it, there's a bit in the film, I'm not going to spoil it because I think people may go and watch it now. But a lot of the horror is when they're doing a take to record this soundtrack for this horror film. There's an audio, it's a vocal description track in Italian of this scene is this, and the sound effect is for this, and it describes in detail what the sound effect is for. And there's a bit that he struggles to do himself because of the visuals he's looking at, and he gets the timing a bit off, and it involves a skillet, and I'm not going to say any more. But that was so powerful because you're like, ooh, because basically your brain is creating, not fully creating the visuals, but it's like filling in the blanks for you, and like, oh no, that's nasty.
And that's why it was so wonderfully refreshing and original, is that it's taking a look behind the curtain, but making a tense film out of that. And yeah, as you say, the condition, the taut response that we have to hearing the sound of, a knife, a cleaver going through a watermelon, or a cabbage. I mean, the cabbages were great. Who'd have thought stabbing a cabbage? You realise that you've heard that 1,000 times.
Yeah. I did like his sidekicks as well, wearing high heels and clomping on wooden boards.
All with a real Poe face. This is my career. It's a job.
Oh, what were they called? Was it Marcello and Marcello or something?
They
both had the same name.
They were like this weird little comedy double act.
Oh, it was funny.
Who just stony-faced went about their business of Foley, Foley had his work.
Yeah, many fruit and vegetables buy it in this movie.
Yeah, in horrible ways. But as you say, the conditioned response to hearing those sounds, it's really very clever how they turn, as I said, they turn off one of your senses and pile all this very familiar stuff into one sense, and the effect is really unsettling because you know what you're looking at, but you still have that, as you say, that kind of tense feeling of, I know that sound. That's nothing good can come from that sound, even though you're watching what's being done to a cabbage.
Absolutely.
No, I can't recommend this film enough. It's a great find. I really enjoyed it.
Excellent. Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Knocked it at the park, Boz. You really did.
Wicked. So, by all means, if anybody's seen it, has opinions about it, please send us emails at littlepodofhorrors@gmail.com. And, the littlepodofhorrors@gmail.com. Get it right, Boz. How long have you been doing this? Honestly. Gordon normally does that stuff. Anyway, Gordon, we miss you. So, we'll move on from that, and we'll give you one of these.
A is for apple. B is for buzz. C is for crayons. D is for drum.
Like scrotum, here it is in a nutshell.
Right, so for this B is for Boz, actually it shouldn't really be B is for Boz, because I have to say, Casey suggested this movie, and I am going to hand over to you, sir, to explain.
Which also
why
means this is all my fault, everyone. Now, B is for Boz has always been a haven for sometimes some very good B movies. A lot of the best horror movies come out of the B movie concept.
Yeah, zombie-ass Toilet of the Undead.
Yeah. This is not one of those times. In fact, this could easily be on a list of among the worst movies ever made, just full stop. But the fun to be had from it is undeniable.
Yeah.
We are talking about a film that's so good it's got 2 titles. It's available.
Which confused me mightily when I went looking for it.
It's also so good that its copyright owners can't be bothered to take it down off of YouTube. So it's free to watch for anybody that wants to. Believe me, you need to. I'm not going to tease you any longer. It's a movie that is known as, well, it's Rock and Roll Nightmare from 1987 was the original title of it. You'll find it on YouTube under the title Rock and Roll Nightmare, but actually the title credits will come up as The Edge of Hell.
Yes.
It was renamed. It's an incredible movie. Incredible in that it got made.
Yes.
That somebody was given money to make it with. It's it's entirely the work of a very interesting chap by the name of John Michael Thor, as in God of Thunder.
No, you have to explain how he spells Michael as well.
That would be Michael. John Michael Thor, who is the kind of thing that only existed in the 80s. He's a combination bodybuilder and metal singer.
Wannabe.
God, yeah. So he's got kind of the Schwarzenegger physique, along with the Zelda from the Terrorhawk's hair, and
she's cute.
And
Sorry.
This guy, who's also Canadian. So I mean it's another layer to just how great this film is. This guy wrote. I mean, he did everything really. He wrote the script. He stars in it, and wrote all the music and performed. Everything. He was the full auteur. So it's all his fault.
Yeah.
Some of the worst acting I've ever seen outside of The Room. People that weren't. For a guy that isn't on the autistic spectrum, this is about as bad as filmmaking gets. There are I'm finding it hard to pick a point to start, Boz.
Well, I was actually going to assassinate it from start to finish, if we may.
If we may. Moments. The ego of this guy pervades this movie from start to finish. The view that this dude has of himself.
Yeah.
It's utterly shocking and hilarious in equal quantities because it's so poor. It was clearly made with a lot of his friends because I'm telling you, there are no trained actors in this film at all. It was made on the cheap, on the outskirts of Toronto, it would appear. So everything's kind of deserted. Nothing's very rock and roll at all. But the plot, the plotting, the lines from the movie, nothing makes fucking sense for longer than about 3.5 minutes. The ending has one of the most incredible Deus Ex Machina twists you will ever... my jaw is still on the floor. From just how big this guy's balls are to pull off what he pulls off.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go with a quick bit of synopsis. I'll go to IMDb for this.
Okay.
At an old farmhouse, a family actually, I'll tell you what we'll do. I'll do the synopsis and we'll stop and we'll break off each as we go through it, okay?
Okay.
To talk about what this actually means. At an old farmhouse, a family mysteriously disappears at the hands of evil. Yeah.
Right.
So we start off in the best way horror movies always start off, with somebody cooking some food.
Yeah.
Yeah. A mother cooking breakfast, and the bad dialogue starts immediately, doesn't it?
It does. It's the mother cooking for her son and the father who are upstairs or elsewhere in the house.
Yeah.
What does she call them? Like the breakfast posse or something?
And the kid sits up in bed, literally, you may as well insert the word line, because he then sits up and goes, "Save some eggs for me."
Second floor brigade, breakfast is almost ready. Okay, Mom, don't scramble yet without me.
Or something along those lines. The father is shaving in the mirror without any facial hair on his face. If you have a look, he's clean shaven when he's shaving. So
it's probably because it was take 28.
Another little indication of quality.
I've got no hair left now.
Yeah. And again, without any kind of reason, anything like that, before they've come down for their breakfast, she is essentially devoured Ghostbuster style by a kitchen-based demon.
In the fridge?
Yeah.
From the fridge?
Yeah.
And the screaming ensues. Yeah. Mum's being murdered, okay? So Dad's reaction is to jog quite sedately down the stairs with no sense of urgency whatsoever.
No. Okay.
And just sort of saunter into the kitchen going, baby, where are you? and the oven's rattling. But, like, he just looked like he couldn't be asked.
No.
Oh, my wife's being brutally murdered. I should go and see what is happening.
That sounds like my wife.
Yeah, so he goes down, the oven is rattling, and he goes and he pulls the door open of the oven, and a red, fleshy, skinless skeleton head skull thing comes out and goes... Ugh.
Yeah.
And I'm like...
Joke shop quality practical effects.
Yes. Yeah, just like animatronic in that somebody's moving the arm because it's on the end of a stick.
You can just see the movement of somebody waving
the fingers are all static, yeah. But it's like, you immediately left with a question mark. Okay, is that his wife? Did she end up in the oven? How did that happen? Because the thing that killed her was in the fridge.
Yeah.
Or was that the evil thing that was in the fridge that killed the woman and now it's going to kill the man because we cut away?
Let's not answer any of those questions and instead go to a 1 hour long title sequence of a van driving through Toronto.
Oh, God. Oh, no, actually, before that, it goes to the little boy who comes to the top of the banister and looks down into the kitchen and screams because his parents are murdered. I presume he sees the dad being murdered or something like that. You know, and he's like 8 years old, and incidentally outacts both of the two adults who are now dead.
But fuck that, it's time for some hair metal and a van. Laughable. Like it's been recut as a joke, but a laughably long tracking, just a succession of tracking shots of a van driving down a road.
It is the van equivalent of Sir Lancelot running towards Swamp Castle over and over again.
You soon realise the only reason for this is so that the entirety of the song by John Michael Thor that is playing can be played over the footage of this van. And
but what I don't get about that is it starts off with some pretty good hair metal, sort of fairly heavy, and then he changes the station on the radio to some weird noodly keyboard shit, which is terrible. But like the track before, I was like, oh yeah, I'm in for the ride. The guy's like...
I've got a theory about this movie straight off the bat. I'm pretty sure this movie was made after an intervention by people surrounding John Michael Thor. He'd probably threatened or tried to kill himself once, and they were thinking, okay, well we need to either make this movie or he's going to kill himself, because everybody else apart from him cannot be fucking bothered on screen. Yeah. They're just, oh well, I guess we better do this scene. Whereas John Michael Thor is convinced that he will be saving, he is the savior of mankind by making this movie.
See, I immediately went to IMDb after seeing it because after 2 entire track lengths of songs, I thought this is a vehicle to try and launch a band.
It really is.
That's what I thought it was. I was looking for the name of the band and how many albums they had, and I was just like, no.
But the band in question, Boz, we need to give them some credit here, because where do all the best hair metal bands go to rehearse? Well, of course, they go to a barn in Toronto. They are the Tritons, Triton, with their lead singer John Triton, who of course is played by the mighty Thor. And they go to a barn where they have an unconvincing conversation with that. I mean, and again, just everybody else in the scene is literally, they look like they were at work that day and then they found themselves doing a film.
Yeah.
And just being told, it'll be okay, just read what you just read and then try to remember.
It has one of the best bad British accents you've ever heard.
Is he Australian?
Ever.
Is he It's so fucking
He's a Brit-Australian, isn't he? He's a Brit-Australian.
Can we please, I know it's more work for you, can we please just pepper this review with...
Oh God, no, it's happening. It's on.
With constant lines, because this film is just it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Okay, people, here's your new home for the next 5 weeks.
The goddamn farm!
Hey, no one's lived here for 10 years?
Relax. Would I pick a loser? Now, we have all the comforts of home here and none of the hassles. Gas and electricity's been turned on for us, but there's no telephone and no TV. You guys never let me get to the but. But, in yon barn-like structure, we have constructed a 24-track recording studio.
Let me guess, to record roosters in the morning?
Nothing to break our concentration and plenty of rooms so everyone can get a little privacy.
Hey, really, mate? What are we supposed to do here?
Rehearse, lame brain.
I'd like to propose a toast to Phil, who came up with this wonderful dinner for us tonight.
He drops the accent halfway through as well.
Yeah, he does.
He just doesn't bother with it. He's like, oh, fuck this, eh?
I'm going to give me some poutine.
My mother's going to be watching this. A barn with a 24-track recording studio.
No less.
No less, yeah. Where they've got a month, okay, that's 1 month, to come up with 10 minutes of material. That's their brief, is they're going to come up with 10 minutes of new material in a month. That's not a good work rate, to be honest.
It's quite rock and roll, though.
Yeah.
Still more than the Happy Mondays managed.
Well, Shaun Ryder would be a great horror movie baddie. And that's when, I mean, the weird approximation of how John Michael Thor thinks a band would hang out, also intercut with the dreadful gender politics of the 80s.
Yeah.
Where there are just pointless groupies there who seem to do weirdly housewifey things, though.
Yes, there's a lot of washing up in this film.
Okay, it's time to see how much of our music we've all forgotten.
Rod, Max, Stig, let's tune our weapons.
Well, girls, it looks like we have the dish duty again.
I'm afraid I don't do dishes. I'm not a housewife.
Like knit and blow kisses all the time and that kind of thing, you know. But, you know, of course, lose their shit whenever the band start playing. Just uncontrollable vixens.
And there's one of them, and I don't want to seem judgmental or, you know, chauvinist or whatever, but she did look a bit like a bulldog chewing a wasp. And Lavinia actually
That's my
coined
sister,
it.
eh?
Lavinia actually coined it. Said, she's fucking ugly. I'm like, yeah. How much do you want to bet she's got good boobs though? And that's why she's in this movie. It's just like boobs come out. She just goes, called it. And it rates on the boobometer, this film. So it gets a couple of ticks for that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the boobs we see the most of are Thor's.
Yes, because the shower scene with his girlfriend, they're in the shower,
I need to get ready
and they're
before we
having
talk
this
about
thing,
that.
and you're going, hold on a minute, his boobs are bigger than hers. And his hair's more bouffant and more generous.
I mean, the shower scene. Are we going to jump straight to that?
No, I'm just sorry. Oh yeah, that was a bit of a leap, wasn't it?
So the rehearsals begin, and by rehearsals, we actually mean pointless full performance with lighting.
With no errors
Yeah.
or negotiation
There's no
or
crowd
let's just
to play
change that
to,
bit.
but they're in stage gear with lighting.
Yeah. And smoke.
Yeah, and smoke and things. Who the fuck is he performing to? It doesn't make sense, Boz. Up until now, it's been a paragon of logic, but it doesn't make sense. Apart from, of course, the groupies who are blowing, like literally, probably 8 times in this film, this chick blows a kiss. Or does something weird. That I've got a theory as well that John Michael Thor has never been intimate or had sex with anybody in his entire life. The sex scenes are fucking strange, and the things that the women do are equally as fucking strange. I don't know.
Although it's made blatantly aware, I thought, sort of coming halfway through, who Survivor Girl was going to be, right? Because they give us a horror movie, there has to be Survivor Girl. And Survivor Girl is normally the one whose boobs you don't see. And one of the girls, you know, she gets her kit off, whatever, but it's you know, a bit of side boob, everything's covered. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're not putting my nipples on film. We're like, there's our Survivor Girl. Not so.
No.
Because it turns out our Survivor Girl does have the biggest breasts and the most blonde hair.
Yeah. We should also point out the one snooty groupie who seems to be simultaneously an ice queen and an advertising billboard for Coca-Cola. Because the amount of fucking times a can of Coke is carefully placed with the logo showing. No, I know for a fact Coke wouldn't go anywhere near this piece of shit movie. So whether he was thinking, oh, well, we'll get him on the back end, I don't know.
Yeah.
But that seems to be her thing. Whether it's an OCD thing, I don't know.
But it's always turned to camera. So you get the full logo. I did notice the product placement, actually.
You'll notice as well, folks, that we're not really discussing the plot so much because there really fucking isn't one. I couldn't tell you why demons are there, why anything happens, and I've seen this film a few times now. There is, and I think the answer is there isn't any reason. It's all just a series of little... I have no words, Buzz.
What are they?
I have no words. I'm trying to find the words and they're not coming.
One of them was clearly a demented horror puppet maker. And I've made this weird little thing here. But like, well, let's have them go around. I mean, they're sort of making somebody's face a bit horrible, but it's like there was some shapeshifter shit going on, and then there were just some... I thought they were actually comedy penises at one point, sticking their heads up, you know...
Some of them reminded me of an episode of Red Dwarf where... they did when they were trying to quickly fake some aliens, and
the Vindoluvian people.
They just did the upside down face thing with some googly eyes stuck to their chins. That's kind of what they look like.
I am Tarka Doll, an ambassador of the great Vindoluvian Empire.
Scanners reported human life on your vessel. Is this so?
Humans? The Vindoluvian people despise all humans. They are the vermin of the universe. Is that not right, Bindi Badgie? The Vindoluvian Empire has pledged to exterminate them all.
Yeah, exactly. That coins it quite well.
So, you know, Dave Lister level character creation.
We despise all humans.
Yeah. I knew you'd enjoy a little bit of a Red Dwarf throwback, Buzz. So yeah, the typical kind of bit by bit, people are sort of possessed, sort of murdered. There's some shit special effects all over the shop. A lot of groupies, a lot of hairspray, and a lot of unapologetically bad hair metal that is received like the second coming of Christ.
With, I noticed, some amazing xylophone / panpipe synth backing.
Yeah, that's where the chicks are allowed to go. In the 80s, you may stand in front of a keyboard, but make sure you keep dancing while you're doing it.
Yeah, that was Bulldog Wasp-Woman, wasn't it? Yeah.
I mean, there's so many moments. It never stops. The fact that the manager goes to find the drumsticks because they clearly only had one set of drumsticks in the building.
Yes.
It's like it was written by a fucking 10-year-old. The logical jumps and the lines that come out of people's mouths. That noise came from downstairs. Let's go back upstairs. Things like that.
We've had our excitement for the night. He's probably pulling our friggin' legs like the time that he booked us all into the same hotel room in Boston.
He probably didn't even come down here. Let's check upstairs.
Oh, they've got a point, honey. Let's go check upstairs.
Well, it sounded like the scream came from down here. You're right. Let's go upstairs.
Well, you just think that doesn't make any sense at all, but it got through to the point where it's on a film that was released.
Yes.
We're burying the lead here, Buzz. We really are. This movie is all about the last half hour.
I'm afraid I've married an octopus.
I'll finish those up, Rain.
Well, shouldn't you be out? Okay, you hurry up, you two. We're gonna be ready to play in a minute. Rod, I thought you said you were gonna help me, not yourself.
I'm sorry. Whenever I see you doing something so domestic, my boner can't help itself.
Well, grab a towel from the cupboard and give me a hand drying.
I was actually at the point of I was checking out slightly. I was like, okay, this is the little annoying gribbly monsters, the weird stick one which looks like the fake alien from Spaceballs.
Yeah, you just want it to end.
Yeah, I was just like, come on. And then the end happened.
Something happens.
And this smile spread across my face. I burst out laughing, and I'm like, this kind of film is the entire reason that B is for Boz exists. Because it's so bad, it's brilliant.
And ironically, for a bodybuilder, never has a writer had such a big pair of balls to pull this off.
Go on, take it.
I mean, okay. Let's see. Kind of a Halloween house decoration. Satan turns up.
With broomsticks for arms.
Not look. Yeah, there are 3 people operating Satan. It's very clear, and they're only just out of frame.
You haven't been listening to me. I told you they were dead, and
so really fucking bad. Who is reveling in the fact that he's killed all of the members of the band and all of the groupies, all of the women. And only Triton is left, who doesn't look that bothered. He still sort of looks cool. His hair's still bouffant. Oh, we need to talk about the shower sex scene first, Boz.
Oh, sorry, the shower sex scene.
He essentially, he clearly sees it as the moment that he can... Obviously, this guy is very fond of getting his pecs out.
Yes.
But the sex in the shower scene doesn't happen. He strikes me... he has sex with this woman in the way that somebody who has... What's my theory here? I believe his character has no genitalia and is terrified that the woman is about to find out. So he kind of bear hugs her for about 10 minutes.
Yes,
that's about it.
Or he's one of those people who, like you say, he's never seen genitalia and thinks that you insert things in the front.
However, no genitalia, given how the plot turns out in this film, would actually be a masterstroke of writing. I'm going to go ahead and give him the credit.
Yeah.
I called that one.
Enough is enough already. I mean, we are supposed to try and get something accomplished up here. How are we supposed to rehearse our new album and tour when everybody's running off trying to scratch a 7-year itch?
Honey, I'm getting worried too. I think we would have heard something from someone by now.
I don't know. Maybe Phil came back with a van when we were in the shower and took everybody else off into town. I mean, that's the only answer.
I guess you're right. I mean, how else could the equipment have gotten put away? Can you do the dishes, honey? I'm going to go upstairs and get the things I was soaking out of the bathroom sink.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so Satan, Beelzebub, whatever, has... I'm going to have to pull this quote up because I want to say it. Is reveling in his victory, pointless victory, over a band that's rehearsing in a fucking barn. Let's not forget this.
They're fucking nobodies.
No,
nobodies.
Satan's not doing anything in the world here to do this. Sorry, I'm going through the quotes here on IMDb, and they're just making me chuckle as I'm scrolling down them. Random one here, John Triton. Let's tune our weapons. Said with no irony at all. Overly wordy, but also really stupid dialogue at the same time. Clearly, this is John Michael Thor's sort of great moment of I've written this amazing story. You're wasting my time, bub, because he's losing his patience with Satan. Okay, the demon says, "This is incredible. Now let's get ready for this line, okay? It is almost no fun to kill one so stupid as to not know who it is that slays him." That's a line in a film. You are in my domain, and I will kill you as I have killed your pitiful friend.
Wasting my time, bub.
This is incredible. It is almost no fun to kill one so stupid as to not know who it is that slays him. You are in my domain, and I will kill you as I have killed your pitiful friends.
You've killed no one, bub.
What?
Or is it less familiar to call you Beelzebub?
John Triton, again, taking a line from fucking Wolverine. You killed no one, bub. Because it's all delivered with a Canadian accent as well, which makes it so much better. To which the demon replies, "What?" And here we go. Or is it less familiar to call you Beelzebub? So that's why he's been calling him Bub. Or do you prefer Abaddon? Or as the Hindus called you, Shaitan? Or as you are known to answer to, Araman, Belial, Apollyon, Asmodeus? Because you see, I do know you. Because he is, Buzz.
The Intercessor.
The Intercessor.
Which is one of the most Christianese terms
Yes, it is.
you've ever heard.
He's essentially an avenging angel who is going to fight.
I am the Intercessor.
So we now have, from this shitty little Canadian horror movie, we have a battle of heaven versus hell. And that is why it is worth sitting for this long through this film. I cannot describe this scene. I cannot do it justice.
Are you going to describe the outfit at least?
Okay. Pointlessly now. I mean, his hair gets more bouffanty, if that's at all possible.
The guy liner gets stronger.
Yeah. Picture any Man of War album cover, and that's essentially what John Triton then becomes. He removes his clothing to leave him with a chainmail loincloth, essentially. Chainmail thong.
Strap.
Greased pectoral muscles. Yeah, a jockstrap, essentially. He gets his pump on, pumps his muscles, and then has a hugely underwhelming fight with Satan, which basically involves him just holding it up for several minutes.
Yeah, because otherwise, obviously the guys operating it had to let go and just sort of lean it onto him. So he had to hold both of its arms so it didn't just fall face first on the floor quite harmlessly and pretend that it's trying to grab him. It's like the worst sort of bitch slappy fight.
Again, it goes on for this long so that he can... Oh, let's not forget the fucking starfish that he catches in slow motion.
Oh, God, how can I forget that?
Kind of like... They look like bath mats. They look like decorations. And he catches them.
They're like bad knockoff
They
face
haven't
huggers.
even bothered to make them sticky as they're obviously supposed to be. He just holds them onto himself for a bit.
Pretends he's pulling them off. And then, tries really hard to rip one in half because it's made of latex. It's a bit difficult.
Yeah. In fact, there should be intercut. Somebody should do a mashup video of this where they intercut those stars being thrown by Guar. Because that's what it looks like. It should be in a Guar video. Rest in peace, Dave. It really should be. That's what it looks like. He then goes back to squeezing this model.
I'd intercut it with me trying to tear a Haribo fried egg in half. Yeah. That's kind of what it looks like.
And then just arbitrarily, all these shots take so long. It's torture. You just think, cut away. Did nobody edit this film? So many ridiculously long shots. He then arbitrarily defeats Satan. Who just declares that he's won this round. We've also completely trodden over the fact that none of the other people in the barn existed.
Yes.
That they were conjured, what did he say? I merely conjured them. They were illusions to entertain your little creatures who were squeaking in the background. So essentially he conjured up the band and everybody else in order to entice... Help me out here, Buzz.
Yeah, it was to I don't know, create enough buzz, enough sin, I don't know, whatever, to attract Satan.
That's it.
To knock them off and kill them, to give him, I don't know, it's like a bait. They were bait. But how he created them, I didn't know angels could create life, but apparently they were not real.
I think that their boss might have something to say about that going on, a little bit of a rogue cop element here.
And yet you and your brethren still insist on coming into this world to try and steal a place in the world of the living. When will you ever learn?
Anyway, fuck that. He's beaten Satan, he's won this round. And Satan disappears, essentially with that little trick of switching off the camera, removing him from the scene, and then switching it back on again. And a couple of Roman candles. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very obviously Roman candles.
Very obviously.
Fireworks now.
So, heaven defeats hell. Or rather, Thor defeats everybody else.
Yeah.
And he then visits the graves of the people who... this is what I don't understand. The people...
Because they weren't real.
The people who never existed. He then visits their graves and tells them that he has avenged them.
Well, maybe Satan had killed them all one by one over the years, and he just they were apparitions or ghosts that he took with him. Maybe that was it. Again, not really explained.
Yeah. Again, let's give him the benefit. This guy needs a lot of benefits, disability benefits mainly. It's one of those films that you really need to get drunk, get your friends over, and watch it just once.
What would the drinking game be for this film? Would it be Peck Flex?
Yeah, let me see.
or breast exposure from both sexes? I mean, at least it's a very equal opportunities film. There's as much male breast in this film as there is female.
Drink every time you see the thought process before somebody says a line. You see them straining. You'd be fucking hammered within about 5 minutes.
I mean, there's got to have one of the highest boobometer ratings yet, this film.
But weirdly, one of the most unsexy films I've ever seen.
Yes!
Just awkward and... it's... Everybody there is clearly uncomfortable being there, apart from Thor.
And there's far too much washing up in the film as well.
There is. Because they're
cooking
married,
for each other.
They do washing up,
Oh, dear. Well, do you want the good news?
I always want good news after a film like that.
There is good news. Did you know there is a film called Intercessor, Another Rock and Roll Nightmare?
Oh my god.
Currently on Amazon, you can buy this for new £2.09.
Holy
or
shit.
There are two used from £18.67 each. Again, starring John Michael Thor. This time he has a sort of a Viking metal mask and a large sword.
Okay.
So, annoyingly, I'm going to have to get this movie.
Yeah, and me.
Although it's probably on YouTube, I'm thinking. There is a sequel, ladies and gentlemen.
Jesus.
I think if he could have played Jesus, he probably would have been happier, but he'd just settle for an archangel.
Yeah. But he'd snap the cross in half, is what he would do, and kick ass with it.
I just have to... I think we've done well there. We've recommended a film for each other, and they've both been winners, because that is one of my favourite awful films of all time now. I just enjoyed it so much.
Note, not a winner. It's fucking terrible.
I made a few notes while I was watching it.
Yeah.
And but my penultimate note is the intercessor ? And then I wrote ha 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 for about 2 lines, and then I ended it just with B is for brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, what a wildly optimistic guy to not just appear in it but write it and his music videos alone. You go to YouTube and look at this guy's music videos. I think the band is just called Thor. But he bends iron bars on stage. He bursts hot water bottles. It's literally like the muscle metal genre. This guy owns it.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Never have you seen such elongated scenes just to make the footage fit however long the song happens to be.
It
happens at least 4 times in this movie.
Flabbergasting. That fucking van drives down so many roads.
The fan cracked me up. I was like, no, seriously, another one? There's another shot? And this thing, like, he's clearly, this is a rock and roll van. You see his hair, and it's the first time you're introduced to him, and you think, yeah, this guy's metal. I'm like, if he's so fucking metal, why is he driving everywhere at 20 miles an hour? Because he's going so slowly. A woman with a Robin Reliant and a blue rinse just goes past flipping him the bird, Yeah. Get out the way, you fucking hippie, hey?
Get out of the fucking thoroughfare.
I'm going to put the link to this in the show notes, I think. Seeing as it's there for everybody.
It's there. Nobody's ever going to take this movie down. They don't fucking care.
Did it make any money? There's one thing I didn't check.
I mean,
does it say?
They got my money if they want it.
Shot in 7 days. Actually, that's going some. That's not bad.
The first 6 days were just the van journey.
That's it. That's it for trivia. Shot in 7 days.
Let's just do some more quotes, boss. Fuck it. Let's just do quotes.
I think I may just download the movie and just clip all of the quotes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's pretty hard to top. But I think we should put a date somewhere in the diary to look up the sequel and both try and get it, and then maybe come back for another Beers for Boz one day.
Yeah, let's do that.
Hopefully one day the three of us with Gordon's back, we can do a show, because that would be
fantastic. Fun. We should do a live commentary of the Rock and Roll Nightmare 2.
A bonus episode. We tried that once. It didn't go down so well. I wonder if that's still available. We did do a commentary for No Retreat, No Surrender, didn't we?
Yes, we did. No, it was No Retreat, No Surrender 3, I think.
That was it, yes, sorry.
Which had nothing to do...
Did we just get pissed off halfway through and sort of
No characters, nothing to do with No Retreat, No Surrender, by the way, which was fantastic. That's the hallmark of a great sequel, where they just write a different movie. Yeah. The budget was $53,000.
Wow.
Estimated. There isn't anything about what it made at the box office.
It probably didn't. It probably didn't make much on DVD.
What do YouTube ads pay?
I wonder how much they get from Google ads. Google AdSense. Oh, you've made 75 cents this week. Yeah. Awesome.
Jesus.
Right.
Literally.
I think we shall wrap up the show there then.
Mm-hmm.
It just remains for me to say a massive thank you, sir, for being the first into the breach to help me with my custodial duties.
It was a goddamn pleasure. And thank you for Barbarian Film... I keep wanting to call it Film Studio. Sound Studio.
Sound Studio.
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Okay, I'm glad you liked it. I really am. And I do intend to watch it again and, try and spot some things I probably missed first time around, because I'm sure there are loads more little nods in there I didn't get and stuff like that as well. So,
yeah. Stop press. Holy shit. I think the soundtrack CD is available for that movie. You're just going to hear the sound of a door slamming and then you're going to be on your own, Buzz.
Oh, brilliant. So, if you'd like to watch Rock and Roll Nightmare / The Edge of Hell, or have seen the sequel maybe, and would like to send some feedback in, please send it to thelittlepodofhorrors@gmail.com. We also have a Facebook group, if you just search for The Little Pod of Horrors. And we would love it dearly if you could visit iTunes for us and just leave us a little review on there, because we are sadly bereft of them, actually. Thank you to those who have left reviews, but we could always use more. So if you want to help us out, that would be a great way to do it. I think I'm going to shut up there and go away. So, thank you, Casey. You're a legend, thank you for bringing Rock and Roll Nightmare into my life.
It'll never leave. It's like herpes.
So, thank you very much, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
If you would like to send an email to the show, please do so at thelittlepodofhorrors@gmail.com. Also, why not go along to the website at www.thelittlepodofhorrors.com, and from there you can find links to our Twitter, Facebook, Google+, forum and blog page. Thanks for listening.
It's like a woman with a Robin Reliant and a blue rinse just goes past flipping him the bird. 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 Goes past flipping him the bird.